Chapter 5 of To Let. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Simon Evers. The Forsyte Saga 3, To Let, by John Galsworthy. Part 1, Chapter 5, The Native Heath. His foot's upon his native heath, his name's Val Dartie. With some such feeling did Val Dartie, in the 40th year of his age, set out that same Thursday morning very early from the old manor house he had taken on the north side of the Sussex Downs. His destination was Newmarket, and he had not been there since the autumn of 1899, when he stole over from Oxford for the Cambridgeshire. He paused at the door to give his wife a kiss, and put a flask of port in his pocket. "Don't ever tire your leg, Val, and don't bet too much." With the pressure of her chest against his own, and his eyes looking into his, Val felt both leg and pocket safe. He should be moderate. Holly was always right. She had a natural aptitude. It did not seem so remarkable to him, perhaps, as it might to others, that, half Dartie as he was, he should have been perfectly faithful to his young first cousin during the 20 years since he married her romantically out in the Boer War, and faithful without any feeling of sacrifice or boredom. She was so quick, so slyly always a little in front of his mood. Being first cousins, they had decided, rather needlessly, to have no children, and though a little sallower, she had kept her looks, her slimness, and the colour of her dark hair. Val particularly admired the life of her own she carried on, besides carrying on his, and riding better every year. She kept up her music. She read an awful lot, novels, poetry, all sorts of stuff. Out on their farm in Cape Colony, she looked after all the nigger babies and women in a miraculous manner. She was, in fact, clever, yet made no fuss about it, and had no side. Though not remarkable for humility, Val had come to have the feeling that she was his superior, and he did not grudge it, a great tribute. It might be noted that he never looked at Holly without her knowing of it, but that she looked at him sometimes unawares. He had kissed her in the porch, because he should not be doing so on the platform, though she was going to the station with him to drive the car back. Tanned and wrinkled by colonial weather and the wiles inseparable from horses, and handicapped by the leg which, weakened in the Boer War, had probably saved his life in the war just past, Val was still much as he had been in the days of his courtship, his smile as wide and charming, his eyelashes if anything thicker and darker, his eyes screwed up under them as bright a grey, his freckles rather deeper, his hair a little grizzled at the sides. He gave the impression of one who has lived actively with horses in a sunny climate. Twisting the car sharp round at the gate, he said, "When is young John coming?" "Today." "Is there anything you want for him? I could bring it down on Saturday." "No, but you might come down by the same train as Fleur, 1:40. Val gave the Ford full rein. He still drove like a man in a new country on bad roads, who refuses to compromise, and expects heaven at every hole. "That's a young woman who knows her way about," he said. "I say, has it struck you?" "Yes," said Holly. "Uncle Soames and your dad, a bit awkward, isn't it?" "She won't know, and he won't know, and nothing must be said, of course. It's only for 5 days, Val." "Stable secret, right-ho." If Holly thought it safe, it was. Glancing slyly round at him, she said, "Did you notice how beautifully she asked herself?" "No." "Well, she did. What do you think of her, Val?" "Pretty and clever, but she might run out at any corner if she got her monkey up, I should say." "I'm wondering," Holly murmured, "whether she is the modern young woman. One feels at sea coming home into all this." "You? You get the habit of things so quick." Holly slid her hand into his coat pocket. "You keep one in the know," said Val, encouraged. "What do you think of that Belgian fellow, Profond?" "I think he's rather a good devil." Val grinned. He seems to me a queer fish for a friend of our family. In fact, our family is in pretty queer waters, with Uncle Soames marrying a Frenchwoman, and your dad marrying Soames's first. Our grandfathers would have had fits." "So would anybody's, my dear." "This car," Val said suddenly, "wants rousing. She doesn't get her hind legs under her uphill. I shall have to give her her head on the slope if I'm to catch that train." There was that about horses which had prevented him from ever really sympathizing with a car, and the running of the Ford under his guidance compared with its running under that of Holly was always noticeable. He caught the train. "Take care going home. She'll throw you down if she can. Good-bye, darling." "Good-bye," called Holly, and kissed her hand. In the train, after a quarter of an hour's indecision between thoughts of Holly, his morning paper, the look of the bright day, and his dim memory of Newmarket, Val plunged into the recesses of a small square book, all names, pedigrees, taproots, and notes about the make and shape of horses. The Forsyte in him was bent on the acquisition of a certain strain of blood, and he was subduing resolutely as yet the darty hankering for a nutter. On getting back to England, after the profitable sale of his South African farm and stud, and observing that the sun seldom shone, Val had said to himself, "I've absolutely got to have an interest in life, or this country will give me the blues. Hunting's not enough. I'll breed, and I'll train." With just that extra pinch of shrewdness and decision imparted by long residence in a new country, Val had seen the weak point of modern breeding. They were all hypnotized by fashion and high price. He should buy for looks, and let names go hang. And here he was already, hypnotized by the prestige of a certain strain of blood. Half consciously he thought, "There's something in this damned climate that makes one go round in a ring. All the same, I must have a strain of Mayfly blood." In this mood he reached the Mecca of his hopes. It was one of those quiet meetings favourable to such as wished to look into horses rather than into the mouths of bookmakers, and Val clung to the paddock. His 20 years of colonial life, divesting him of the dandyism in which he had been bred, had left him the essential neatness of the horseman, and given him a queer and rather blighting eye over what he called the silly haw-haw of some Englishmen, the flapping cockatourie of some English women. Holly had none of that, and Holly was his model. Observant, quick, resourceful, Val went straight to the heart of a transaction, a horse, a drink, and he was on his way to the heart of a Mayfly flea when a slow voice said at his elbow, "Mr. Valdarty? How's Mrs. Valdarty? She's well, I hope." And he saw beside him the Belgian he had met at his sister Imogen's. "Prosper Profond, I met you at lunch," said the voice. "How are you?" murmured Val. "I'm very well," replied Monsieur Profond, smiling with a certain inimitable slowness. A good devil, Holly had called him. Well, he looked a little like a devil with his dark, clipped, pointed beard. A sleepy one, though, and good-humoured, with fine eyes, unexpectedly intelligent. "Here's a gentleman wants to know you, cousin of yours, Mr. George Forsyte." Val saw a large form and a face clean-shaven, bull-like, a little lowering, with sardonic humour bubbling behind a full grey eye. He remembered it dimly from old days when he would dine with his father at the Iseeum Club. "I used to go racing with your father," George was saying. "How's the stud? Like to buy one of my screws?" Val grinned, to hide the sudden feeling that the bottom had fallen out of breeding. They believed in nothing over here, not even in horses. George Forsyte, Prosper Profond. The devil himself was not more disillusioned than those two. "Didn't know you were a racing man," he said to Monsieur Profond. "I'm not. I don't care for it. I'm a yachting man. I don't care for yachting either, but I like to see my friends. I've got some lunch, Mr. Valdarty, just a small lunch, if you'd like to have some. Not much, just a small one. In my car." "Thanks," said Val. "Very good of you. I'll come along in about a quarter of an hour." "Over there? Mr. Forsyte's coming?" And Mr. Profond pointed with a yellow glove finger. "A small car with a small lunch." He moved on, groomed, sleep